What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You already know what time it is. We are going to review these charts. We're going to talk about what happened last week, and then we're going to talk about what we're prepared for this week. As always, it's your girl, No Limit Lee, aka Leela. And honestly, I'm really excited to talk to y'all about what happened because this week was crazy. So much news happened this week, and I had a potential I forgot what they're called in like the professional term, but a giant news event that you guys should have known about Iran launching the missiles at Israel, which was like the first time for me that I've ever had to deal with news that wasn't like cyclical or like, a cycle of news. That was like general, like real life breaking news. So I'll talk about that, and I'll talk to you guys about I didn't take any trades. Why I didn't take any trades, of course, but also like why, what I'm looking at now and what kind of trades that I'll be looking to take. So yeah, let's get into it. So let's talk about where we were last week. I remember last week I was telling you guys I was looking for only sales in the market because of this beautiful bearish engulfing that we got based on which week's news was that? Make sure I say it right. Should be the funds rate, right? Unemployment claims. Yes. I think it was the funds rate. So, anyways, based on that, we had this beautiful bearish candle engulf the previous two bullish candles. We had basically looked like what the sellers were pushing back down to this weekly support level. And I remember, like I was telling you guys, this is exactly what I was looking for in terms of sales, right? This is why I always say follow your rules. Because honestly, following my rules, this is very true. This is exactly what I should be looking for. What I also noticed too, and I didn't get a chance to put it on my recording last week, was that we also had a bit of a trend line forming here. So I like to get point A and point B, and then of course point C would be about here where the trend line touched. But following, again, excluding this last week's candles, but this should have been point C, and we should have continued to push down. So that's why I have this line up here. If you're wondering why, I normally do not trade trend lines. For some reason, my eye line just doesn't work with it. So if I can get them something clean like this, I will. But honestly, for me, it's not like a major part of my trading plan the way like support and resistance is. So back to what I was saying. Glad that we follow our rules, right? Because we're on the daily, I like to skip from daily to the 1 hour. We're back here, right? This is, as you can see right at the bottom of the screen, this is on Friday. We came up. Market open. Okay, market formed a lower high. Technically, you would have entered right here, right? With your TP being the top of this zone. And as I continue to watch this, if you look, we did not break this level of support. In fact, this actually created a level of support later on. But this failure to break past the previous level of support shows me that the sellers are no longer in control, or there is buyers coming into the market. Because as you guys know, for a selling structure, we would like a low, then a lower high, low, then a lower high, a low, then a lower high, and so on and so forth. And each one of these levels of support are being broken at some point. You see somewhere down here on the lower time frame, it would break, it would form a new low, then we get that lower high, and that would be our entry point. Same thing again if we were to do for the next level of support, right? We would get price would come up, make that lower high, would be entry. We'd be watching to make sure that this price broke that this level of support. It would break on a lower time frame, it would create a new low, and then we would again look for an entry at another lower high. So that's exactly what I would have been looking for right here. Like, we had obviously this strong push, all right? We created a new low, price made a lower high, that should have been an entry point, and then from here we should have been looking for this to break. Since it did not break, this is when I actually start to get curious, right? So as you can see here, I marked off my level of support for, this is H1. So I logged off my level of support. I would not have entered here because if you guys remember when I talked about transition, that's not the kind of transitions I like to enter in on. And let me just review real quick. So in a transition, there's two kinds of transitions I like, right? So we have the first one, you create that new low, you come up, you create a higher low, then you break the previous lower high. And now we are continuing with our bullish structure. And then the other kind of structure I see the transition is more clean, where it's literally like break here, 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 here. These are all major market patterns, by the way, but it's a double bottom. This is a reverse head and shoulders, like very, very important. But I like to just look at them structure points wise, because honestly, it doesn't matter if you know the name. If you know what's happening with structure, then you'll know exactly that like these things are transition, and then you know what to pay attention in terms of entry. So entry on the first one, right? I told you guys, normally I like to see, especially because right now we were in a selling trend, I would like to see a lower high broken before I enter. However, in this one, where I get the formation of a higher low before I see that lower high broken, I'm okay with accepting the risk and getting my first entry here, right? Because for me, I'm seeing it's kind of like what we saw here. We didn't get price to push back to the previous low to even test that level of support to see if the sellers are even stronger. Like the buyers immediately came in and reversed the trajectory. So I'm okay with accepting the risk here to enter into a buy. As price is moving up, I'd be watching it to see if it's going to break this level of resistance. And so I would be on the lower time frame, and I would see would be two back-to-back blue candles, something similar to what you see here, like very strong bullish candles. And then at that point, I would know that we have broken structure, and now we are looking for a higher low, and that would be my next entry once we find a new level of resistance and price comes back down for a minor trend and a retest of this level of resistance that was previously broken. It will now form the level of support, and then from there on out, I would continuously follow my trading rules. So the best area of opportunity for me is obviously this one, because the earlier you can get in, the better. The closer to the bottom you can get in, the better, especially when you're on buys. And the closer to the top you get on the sells, the better, right? So those have been my two areas of opportunity for entry on that kind of transition structure. On the other one, this is actually a little bit more cleaner. So again, we would have those formation of lower highs and lower lows. On the last lower high, I would draw again another resistance. But I'm still waiting to see if that level of support was broken. The level of previous support was broken. As you can see here, we did not break that level of previous support. Let me just mark it off just a tad cleaner so you can see what I'm talking about. So based on this level of support, price did not break it. Therefore, we would see a formation of transition candles, something like a bullish engulfing or something on the lower time frame to signal that buyers are now into the market and taking over. So then what I would do from here, honestly, I'm not entering here. I'm just watching, because honestly, price can come up and make another lower high and go and continue pushing down. So it's not enough evidence right here for me to enter into a trade. So I would wait until price broke through this level of resistance or the previous lower high. On the lower time frame, again, we would see those back-to-back bullish candles. It would reach some level of resistance, creating a new high. And then on the pullback, I would be looking for an entry as soon as price formed its next new support. So those are my two kind of general what I'm looking for in terms of an entry on a transitioning structure. transitioning market structure. So what we actually got this week was actually more of the first one, right? And I'm going to show you guys what happened. So again, we were looking for sales. We didn't get much sales. This could have been an area of opportunity, but it would not have hit our target that we were looking for. As we just talked about previously, the level of support that was formed here previously in the previous week was tested and not broken. Price continued to push past this previous lower high. And as you can see, we're starting to see bullish candles, very strong bullish candles, bullish engulfing patterns. So then price makes a new high, right? This right here, let me mark it off. This kind of structure right here. I'm gonna stop right there. It's the same thing right here, right? We came from a high to a low, a high to a low, lower high to a low, lower high to a low, a low to a lower high. Am I right? Yeah, a low to a lower high. There we go. A low. This is technically a lower high on the higher time frame. I'll show you. But the low to a lower high, and then we had the higher low form. Higher low from where? This is a higher low based on the 1 hour, right? Keep in mind, this is why it's so important that you understand what time frame that you're on. And I'll show you guys why this was still considered a lower high. If I zoom out, go back up to the low, the daily time frame, there was still an area of resistance here, right? And that is based on that same area that we were in. Let me try to box it off so we could study it on when we go back down. This is still a lower high. Like, structure at this point has not been broken. An area of support has formed, but structure has not been broken. I like to base structure off H4 in the daily. The daily is the cleanest right now, and honestly, I like it. It just gives me a lot more data on H1 to really analyze and get in for entries. This is our last area of resistance that would signify that the market is now ready to go with the buyers. Until the market breaks this previous lower high on the daily, we are still in a selling trend. So that is why I still considered that a lower high. Reason number 2, I consider that a lower high. This is a high. This high is lower than this high. So again, we see a continuation of a lower high being formed. This could have easily turned into a continuation for sellers, right? So even at this point, I still would not have been looking for buys. It still was not signifying buys to me. It did signify an area of interest because if you know what happened during this time period, it was actually the news of Iran and Israel with a potential war ensuing. So here's the crazy thing. We had news at that time. I remember what it was, like production, something with production. But we did have some news coming out, I think at 9:45 and at 10. When I was looking at the chart, it was about 9:30 something, and the markets was going crazy. Like, everything on my watch list on the right was tweaking, and the candle was jumping up and down. And I was like, okay, well, I know it does that during news, but we're not during a news time period, right? And again, this is why I say, when you are trading, have the news on somewhere, your phone, your iPad, your TV. You know what I'm saying? I'm blessed that I be having Bloomberg in the back on. And I'm glad I did that morning, because when I looked to see what is happening with the markets, I saw in big red letters that Iran was launching 100 plus missiles to Israel. So I learned that day, war is bad for my currency, because this candle was looking like it was very bearish. And had it closed, we probably would have seen a continuation of this pattern. But we did not see that, thus us going back to why this is a transition pattern, right? So we're at this lower high point. We're at this lower high point right here. Same point, this and this. This in this, right? We had a formation of a level of support here. Let me just move this so I can zoom in. So if we were still in a selling structure, we would have saw a continuation of lower highs and lower lows, and levels of support would have been broken. However, what did we see? We kept seeing wicks to the downside. That means the sellers are exhausted. So instantly for me, that means we might be at a level of support. Based on that, also, like I told you, the news that came in that day was actually pretty strong and showing good signs of growth for the dollar. And then also we were on the backside of that trend line that I drew on the daily, right? So I know if we form any levels of support above this trend line, it definitely might be a transition. Also, we broke the last lower high based on the 1 hour. And this is a higher time frame lower high, but this is a 1 hour structure point lower high. So we're in a bit of a transition, right? Not the cleanest one for sure, but definitely I can think, when I'm on the charts, I'm like, okay, well, this might be worth the risk, right? It might be worth the risk to get in if I can get a good entry. Obviously, I didn't take this entry. I didn't trade this week. I am still on timeout. You better follow your rules. Keep telling you guys this. I'm on timeout for my own rules and my own reasons, but I will be trading this week. But I, of course, always am analyzing the markets. I never miss an opportunity to analyze. So as I see this, right, I am watching to see, okay, are we going to keep this selling structure? In fact, at this point, I will go down to the lower time frame and I would see, okay, what's forming right now? We have lower highs and no lower lows, but definitely some lower highs. So again, if you're really, really good at trend lines, this would be a great time to draw one. I'm not so great at them, right? But even I could see, like, we have all this white. We have all these lower highs forming, but nothing's breaking the support. Same kind of area of support's being tested side of that back side of the trend line. We even had a bullish engulfing off the test of that trend line. I would have liked to see more of an entry here based on the last level of resistance that I saw on H1. Resistance being this bullish then bearish candle. I drew my resistance here. What then I would be looking for on the M15 is a break and a retest. So we had a break actually pretty early. I think the break happened this candle, and I really like this candle. So at this point, I'm waiting for the minor structure of the bullish movement to reach a new high. And then once I get this nice pullback, I would be looking for the next bullish engulfing. And for me, this is the perfect entry, right? And I want to say, based on my trading plan, I don't like to risk more than 20 to 30 pips. So I'm just trying to see where I would have marked my stop loss. Probably would have given this some cushion just because of the day we had. And I probably would have marked it here. It's pretty good because this is right under this level of support. Ooh, no wicks to the bottom. Love it. This would have been a spot on entry, right? First TP would have been based on this level of resistance based on the daily you guys saw. And then like we have over here, once this lower high was broken, it was broken on this candle, the next pullback is an area of entry. Area of entry would have been right here. As soon as the market found a new high, which it did at this purple resistance line that I have using the H4, then we would be going down again and looking for a bullish engulfing, which we have right here. 1, 2, 3. Enter into again. And that would have been, this one probably wouldn't have been as bad because it's cleaner. So yeah, I could have got away. A lot less risk. And again, my TP here honestly would have been this weekly resistance And if I was blessed enough to get into the first one, I would have held it. And there you go. So based on those two trades, I would have been done for the week if I was trading. If I was in, those would be the only things that I'd have been looking at. That requires a lot of patience, something that I'm clearly still working on. But as you can see, like just based on my trading plan, the entries were there, opportunities were there. Like this is why like I'm really on myself right now about following my rules, because when I take unnecessary losses and I go on losing streaks, it ruins my future opportunities to be profitable with trades that are just easy and highly profitable. That's what I'm like. That is the name of the game. All right, I don't know how long this video is, but it seems like it's pretty long. So let's go into the news and just look at what we're looking at for this week. So this week, inflation. That's it. So right now, the Fed, if you remember what happened last week, I have to talk about this. I told you the Fed says that they will be watching not only inflation, but the unemployment rate to see how strong, get a gauge of how strong the economy is. Last week, the unemployment rate went down, which means there are more jobs being added, less people who don't have some form of a job. So that is good signs, which means it's less likely that we will get another rate cut this year. And that's also depending upon how inflation reacts now, because now we're going to see the first inflation reading after the rate cut. So that's what we'll be looking forward to this week. Nothing else really big outside of that. I would say this in terms of news, because we are in a highly political environment, meaning, you know, us in the US, we have presidential elections coming. We also have a lot of global tensions right now, as you guys heard me previously mention in the video, by Iran and Israel. I mean, anything in this, it seems like this market right now is very, I don't want to say news heavy, but very news sensitive, right? I mean, the market's always news sensitive, but just right now in this time period, the short term, I will be looking to take more quality trades, less trades, and really following my rules and following risk management to the T. Because at any point in any time, any one of these news, you know, events could drop, and it could really hurt your account if you're not prepared, if you don't know, you know, if you don't have stop losses or anything like that. So that is what I would say in terms of like what I'm doing. Because I have not had the pleasure of trading through a presidential election yet, because the last one, we were in a pandemic. So it was a completely different year. So this is my first election year. So I am learning just like you guys are learning. And I'm actually kind of glad that you guys are watching me learning and doing this together. So maybe by the next one, we'll actually have more of an idea of what to do. So honestly, simple projections. We're going to continue with the buys. Only thing that I will be concerned about, only thing that I am quote unquote concerned about is maybe a slight pullback once we finally hit this weekly level of resistance. Let's just hop on over so we can see. But honestly, I don't think it'll be a huge pullback. We'll definitely have to see for sure. But I mean, you can see last week's candle was so huge. It was bullish. You know, that formation of support gave us a little even a higher low. So we'll see if we get like a little bit of a pullback here based on the lower time frame. We'll probably look for some entries. Right now, October is looking bullish, but we have 25 days left, so we're not going to really pay attention to the monthly candle. As you can see, for the daily, we are still, again, back to back bullish candles. Again, eyeing this weekly area to see if we're going to get a level of resistance as we did over here in this previous area. For me, now I'm going to remove this just so I can have a little bit more cleaner. So right now, the market is searching for a new high. Once we get a new high, then we will look for a new higher low. On that new higher low is where our most optimal entry will be based on the daily. But that entry we will not be able to find that entry unless we are on H1. But first, we have to find an area of resistance, which should be around here. Then we will get a pullback, which would look like like a transition or a selling trend on H1. And then we will get a formation of a higher low, preferably above this level, above this previous level of resistance on the daily. That will continuously show us that we have buyers keeping over the market. And that's really what I'll be looking for this week. Really, really simple, because all the mumbo jumbo and the junk kind of happened last week. We're just seeing if we're going to continue to ride this wave all the way up to wherever the market wants to go. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys this week. And as always, I want to keep reminding everybody who watches these videos, you can do anything that you set your mind to. The only limits that you have are the ones that you place on yourself. So please go out, do great, and live limitless this week. Peace.